This Sportz Blitz podcast is brought to you by LMG. Grow your business through logo design, paper products, and video production. Visit leemarketing.net to learn more.
Welcome back to Sportz Blitz Live, presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and S&S Discount Tire. Here in the Auburn Blitz segment of our show, sponsored by Dane Sharp, attorney at law. We can't thank Dane enough for what he does on the Auburn Blitz segment. And at this time, we'll go to the phone lines and welcome in Andy Grimm, our correspondent here on the Auburn Blitz. Andy, thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Andy, just glad we're not in Sochi, right?
Yeah, definitely.
and you're glad that we cleared up the situation with Bob Costas, right?
Absolutely. I turned it on the other night, and I thought Bob he had been taking some medicinal marijuana. He looked like he was struggling.
I'll say this: if Sochi can get the Olympics, I'm hoping Wadawi puts a bid in for the 2022 games or something.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I've been to some places and doing some soccer and things like that, and some remote venues, but I've never been to a place where you had two toilets in the same stall.
Well, you're selling them short. There's about, that was one picture, and most of it's community bathrooms. There's 4 or 5 in there. I guess you can just carry on a conversation next to the person or across the room from you. So we'll dive out of Sochi. We'll get back in that later, but we're in the Auburn Blitz segment, sponsored by Dane Sharp, attorney at law. And Andy, hot topic today on the on Sports Call was Rashaan Evans, obviously more phone calls than anybody could take. And Luke and I spent about 20 minutes on that topic as well. I think everybody probably is ready to just move on.
Absolutely. Yeah, we spent 2 hours talking about it today, and we were kind of deciding what would be the lead topic, and we went with the Michael Sam, but the predominant thing was everybody was wanting to talk about that, and this is one of the reasons that I've grown to dislike recruiting altogether. It's turned into such a soap opera. And just so much drama associated with it that and people take it, they go overboard with it, especially in this state. We love the schools too much, and that's a great thing, and it's a terrible thing at the same time. And I'm ready to move on, and I put it behind me, and I certainly I've said all along, and I've said this my stance has always been for years that. The kid needs to go where he wants to go, and there might be nefarious things going on in recruitment. There may not be, and if there is, or if there isn't, if there's nothing anybody can do about it now. I wish him no ill will, and I hope that everybody doesn't condemn the entire Auburn fan base for a handful of people that say a foolish thing.
We got Andy Grimm on the phone with us here in the Auburn Blitz, and I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, people say and do things a lot of times out of a moment of rage. And you brought up a good point on Sports Call today, and I've said this before, Andy. And used to, and I think Luke and I have even talked about this too. Used to, you'd be in a room of 4 or 5 guys, and somebody'd say something completely irrational, and you go, man, I can't believe you said that. But it was said, and it was gone, and nobody said it, it wasn't mentioned anymore. And whoever said it, apologized, said I shouldn't have said that. Now people in rage go and decide they want to put stuff out on Twitter and Facebook. And guess what when you do that? When you put it in writing, it gets out there forever. And somebody screenshot it, even if you delete it by then, so many people have seen it, it's too late. So social media has been the downfall of a lot of people because they can't take a step back and let the rage go away long enough so they don't do something irrational.
Yeah, they call it going viral for a reason. Used to, like you were saying, you hear these things and they may spread around. You hear one person pass it from another, and it goes to a couple of 15 people, and it's gone. Now you say one thing, or you write one thing, and 100,000 people see it within 5 seconds, and it explodes. And I think you see college coaches, and you hear about now they educate players about social media. Well, I think we need to start educating kids in schools about social media. We need to educate their parents. We need to educate adults about social media. There aren't any rules. We're in this is a brave new world. and we're all having to learn kind of as we go. The last decade has just been an explosion of this, and it's turned into Thunderdome. I mean, there's no rules. We're all just kind of trying to understand it and try to figure out how to process it, but people just need to understand and realize, and I think education is the key. We got to, somehow or another, we got to figure out how to make people understand that you have to be a little more responsible. You have to act a little bit more like an adult. You can't just say things and put things out there because they really come back to haunt you.
Andy, let's shift out of that, and we'll say one more thing quick about football before we go into basketball. Tony Bridges, mentioning recruiting, 2015 class, Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, obviously Auburn picking up another guy there from Mississippi Gulf Coast. Two teammates Auburn was able to recruit and get in this last class. But Tony Bridges is a tall, physical cornerback. You can tell that a lot of colleges are starting to go that route because of the big, huge guys out on the end, and Missouri was a team that had two guys on the corners. I mean, obviously some other teams have big physical receivers, and you can't go with your typical 5'10", 5'11", or even 6-foot cornerbacks anymore, even if they've got great speed and leaping ability. And we saw Auburn lose there at the end of the national championship game when Kelvin Benjamin, who's 6'5", just simply out-jumped Chris Davis for the football.
Yeah, that's true. We had Todd, we had Bridges on the show this afternoon, and it seemed like a very nice, very good kid. Said yes, sir, and I just talked about that with him and he brought up a good point about DeQuil Williams being at Mississippi Gulf Coast, and he had to go up against him in practice every day. Talked about how that made him a better cornerback, and he's 6'2". 185. I think they said he had a 30-inch vertical, and he said, he felt like he could jump, with anybody out there, and that, his quickness and his size gave him, an advantage to really be physical with receivers. And like you said, in the SEC, it's becoming more and more common to see guys 6'4" and taller that are just as fast as everybody else, and you got to have an answer for that. And I think Melvin Smith, obviously, and I don't understand why everybody wouldn't automatically want to recruit, cornerbacks that are 6 foot or over. But I guess there's just not that many out there. But it seems that with Melvin Smith on the staff, we seem to have found a lot more than we used to.
Andy, let's shift over to basketball. Auburn sitting at 11-10, 3-7 in the conference. Just lost to LSU 87-80. 8 games left on the schedule. Got Kentucky coming up tomorrow night. Then you've got Mississippi State following them up at home, then on the road at Florida. Then at home for 2 with Vandy and South Carolina, on the road to Alabama, home for Tennessee, and then closing out against Texas A&M. 11-10 currently right now. If you had to look into the crystal ball, where does Auburn finish record-wise, and is it good enough to keep Tony Barbie around?
Right now, that will be difficult to keep him around. I think. I think obviously if they had a great chance to win against LSU, but just saw the size of LSU just completely towered over Auburn, and that showed up, and LSU out rebounded them. Although Auburn stayed with them, and I think Tony Barbie has done a pretty fair job with getting the most out of this team that he has this year. Denson and Harrell doing the majority of the scoring, and really the only 2 offensive threats right now to speak of. But it'll be very difficult for Auburn to beat Kentucky at home, and certainly Florida on the road. So you have to kind of throw those out. The rest of the schedule is manageable, but I don't know. It right now I could see Auburn getting to 15 and 14, but 15 and 14 and 7 and 11 in the league. I just don't think that gets it done for Tony Barbie.
That's exactly, and Luke can attest, that's exactly what I had written down, and that would be Auburn going 4-4 the rest of the way out. One game over 500 overall. Wins against Mississippi State, South Carolina, possibly Alabama, and either Texas A&M or Tennessee. I don't think they beat Florida or Kentucky, and definitely don't think they beat Vanderbilt. And that's a stretch to me. I think for Auburn to go 4-4 coming down the stretch would be a stretch. And I think the disheartening thing for Auburn basketball is you look at the recruiting class coming in, and then you look at what Auburn's losing in Chris Denson. I know KT Harrell will be back, but KT Harrell and Chris Denson are this team, and they're going to lose half of that. Who is coming in that can replace Chris Denson? And I just don't see it, frankly.
No, I don't either. I don't know where they go. Obviously, that's been one of the major problems. They haven't been able to bring in significant talent to replace the guys that are productive. I don't know what the future holds for this Auburn basketball program, but right now it's difficult to see a lot of change moving forward. I know John Calipari comes out and says that Tony Barbie's doing as good a coaching job as anybody in the SEC, but Tony Barbie's obviously his protege. I'm not sure what else you would expect him to say. So I'm not sure how much credibility that holds.
Well, Andy, we're up against the break, my man. Appreciate you always being part of the Auburn Blitz segment each and every week, sponsored by Dane Sharp Attorney at Law here on the Dane Sharp Attorney at Law hotline. And also, again, appreciate your insight on everything. And I'll see you Friday for Sports Call.
All right, brother. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks so much. That's Andy Grimm, our correspondent here for Sportz Blitz and the Auburn Blitz. We will take a break. When we come back, Luke will have the Bradbury Bama Blitz, and he'll talk about Alabama basketball, the state of that, which is about as equally poor as Auburn, plus some recruits on the Alabama side, and a lot more. So stay tuned. More Sports Blitz Live presented by JR's and SNS Tire right after this.